Hey kids, how's everybody doing today? As promised, I'm going to show you how I make a pumpkin pie. You know, people have different ways of doing it, and I have my way of doing it. But first, I have a dad joke for you. So what's the best song to sing when you're preparing your turkey? All about that bass. The one thing that I like to do with my pumpkin pie is I like to add real pumpkin to it. You can make it completely from scratch if you want. I don't. I use the can. By adding a little bit of pumpkin, it adds some texture to the filling, and it also makes it a little higher. So what I do is I just take a pumpkin. This is called a sugar pumpkin, kind of a smaller one, and I cut it this way. So we just cut it in half, and then you got those seeds in there, and I'll get that all nice and clean. I just scooped all of the seeds out. You want to get all that gunk out and get all the kind of the slimy orange stuff out for the most part. Get as much as you can out. And then now you take a pan like this, okay? And I got about a ½ inch of water in the bottom of that. And then you just take that and you take your pumpkins and you put them face down like that, okay? And then we're gonna put these in the oven at 350 for about 40 minutes. You know, 30 to 40 minutes, depending on what texture you want. I've been told that you can actually do this in the microwave. I've always done it. I'm old school. I like to do it in the oven. So we have the pumpkin baking right now. So now's a good time to go ahead and make our crust. You know, you can use a crust, a pre-made crust. I like to make my own crust, and I like the taste of my crust. I use shortening, so it kind of makes it a little flaky. And I always make extra for the crust because I always want to have a little bit extra, and then I put a little decoration on top of the pumpkin pie too, so I bake that separate while the pie is baking. Whenever you're baking, you want to mix the dry ingredients, so it's important when you read the instructions. So it says 4 cups of flour, okay, and then a teaspoon of salt, and then you mix those together, okay? You want to mix that real good. And then I've already measured this out too. This is my shortening. It's butter flavored shortening. And then you add, so this is 1 cup of this, 1 1/3 cups shortening. Mix all that up. And they say you want to get it to be coarse crumbs. So after I do this for a little while, it'll probably take about, you know, to get it really to the right place, we want to do it probably 5 or 10 minutes. You want it to be coarse crumbs, and all I'm doing is I'm just using this tool and I'm just pushing down on it. All right, so it's coarse crumbs is how they call that. So it's all nice and mixed. So that's just about done there. And then we go ahead, now we're gonna add water. It's not gonna take much. You just want to get that dough to stick together, okay? So a little bit at a time. If you just bought a crust from the store, it'd be a lot easier. But again, I just wanted to show you how to do this, so you have this as an option. So now you can see what that's looking like. I've just been adding water to it slowly. And so it's just all clinging together. And then I get my hands involved here in just a second. I'm gonna pour some flour out on my cutting board, and then I'll be able to kind of finish this up, make sure it's all good and mixed. So I've just dumped it out on my cutting board, and now I can just kind of start working it with my fingers. If you've never kneaded before, this is what kneading is. You just push it like that, push it like that, push it like that, turn it, push it. And then now I'm making 2 pies, okay? So I want to basically divide this in half, pretty close. I got so much extra, we're gonna be good. So I'll just set one of these off to the side, and then we can start working on rolling it all out, okay? And you wanna try to make it in a circle, because your pie's circle. Brilliant, right? Add a little flour onto the side here. That way I can grab from it, and I'm just gonna put that on my roller and just work it out. You're just kind of working from the center and working it out, working all around like that. So we have two ceramic pie pans that we use now. And so all you do, so this will help you know whether you got the right size or not. So you want it oversized because it's gonna come up the side. So I'm gonna set this off to the side, and then you just take this and you lift up, and then you just roll it forward on your rolling pin. You can unroll it. It's kind of fun to add a little character to it. So you don't have to be perfect on these edges, right? And so all you do is you just work your way around, and you pinch it with your fingers. And if you have a little extra, just throw that off to the side, because we're going to use that. I ended up making these crusts a little thicker than I normally do, which is fine. And with this butter flavored shortening, you're gonna love it because makes it flaky. So that's what mine looks like. Right? I think it's fine though, because this adds character to it. Okay, so I'm just finishing up the second pie crust, because the big can that we use, it's what is it, 29 ounce can of pumpkin. That's going to make 2 pies, okay? So you need to make 2 crusts. And then see, I have all this extra dough, and I'll show you what we're going to do with that. Kind of a nice little thing that we're going to put on the top at the end. Like I'll make some leaves, and I can even do it just by hand, you know, just kind of. My wife's actually the crafty one when it comes to that. So, okay, so here's what this looks like. All I'm doing is just cutting out a leaf, okay? You can do it however you want, freehand, whatever. That's how I do it. Separately, and then we'll just put those on at the top. Okay, so our pumpkin is cooked, and so all you do with this is you just scrape it out, okay? We're just gonna scoop it out from here. And what this does, the reason I like it is because it adds texture. Because those cans, the canned pumpkin is pretty pureed, however you'd say that. I usually only probably need just one of the halves of the pumpkin, so I don't usually use the other one. Because I think this is plenty, because again, we're using a whole can as well. And then you just kind of mash that up. Okay, so this is what this looks like. Again, you don't want to mash it up too much because, you know, you're going to turn it into puree if you do that. I like to have it add a little flair to my pumpkin pie. So that's what that looks like, and we're just going to set that aside and we'll keep working on the rest of our ingredients. So we're ready to start making the filling now. I got everything prepared to try to make this quick for you, and then I'll have the recipe in the description of my video too. So what we want to do, again, like I mentioned earlier, you want to mix your dry ingredients first and then your wet ingredients separate, and then you pour them together. Okay, that way everything gets mixed really good. 1.5 cups of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, and then 3 teaspoons of cinnamon. I add a little extra cinnamon because I like cinnamon. 1 teaspoon of ginger, 1 teaspoon of cloves, which is a little more than the normal recipe calls for. So now we're just mixing it up. It's like that. It's all kind of the same brownish color, so you can tell that everything's mixed pretty well. And now we have 4 eggs. Okay, and you want to keep those separate too, so because you want to mix those real good. If you mix that with your pumpkin, they might not get mixed really well, right? So we just go ahead and beat those. Now we can just go ahead and add it to the pumpkin that we had setting aside, that one, the real pumpkin, or I guess it's all real pumpkin, but the pumpkin I cooked. I can mix those together, mix that up really good, and then now you can add your pumpkin filling, okay? It's nice to have a rubber spatula like this so you can get it all out. Just keep mixing that up good. Now we can add the dry ingredients, and you can kind of do this slowly just to make sure everything gets mixed good. You can do a little bit at a time. Did about half. Mix that in. Now the other half. And while you're doing this, so actually before I did this, before I started, I turned my oven to 425 because you want to preheat your oven so that it's ready to go once I add my pie filling to these pies. So then now we got to slowly add. So this is evaporated milk, and all you do is just use a can opener. You just poke a hole in one side, poke a hole in the other, so it can actually drain out. Okay, you want to have the hole over here to allow it to flow good. Okay. I just add 1 can and get it nice and mixed, and then I'll add the second can. This seems kind of goopy when you first do it, so it seems like it's going to be too much, but once you get it all mixed in, it'll be fine. And I'll finish mixing this up, and then we'll go ahead and pour it in the pie shells. That's a mess. You want to kind of put about half in one. It's going to splatter a little bit too, right? So you want to make sure you're filling them up about the same. See those chunks coming out in there? That's nice. That's actually good. That's from the cooked pumpkin. So we bake it for 15 minutes at 425, and I'm going to throw in that other little pan of those leaves that I made too, right alongside them. So 425 for 15 minutes, and then 350 for 45 minutes. And probably when there's about 15 minutes left, I'll transfer those leaves to the top and then finish it up, and I'll show you what it looks like at the end. So I'm gonna go put these in the oven. Okay, so just pulled the pies out of the oven. There's my leaf that I put on top with about 15 minutes to go. I ended up cooking them a little bit longer than what I originally said. The 45 minutes, I added another 10 minutes because you can stick a knife down in the middle, and if you pull the knife out and there's still some pumpkin kind of clinging to it, you want to let it go a little bit longer. So that's just one way to test it. But you can tell I've baked enough of these over the years that that this is good. It's still a little bit jiggly, but so you want to let it cool for about 2 hours. And I mean, you can eat them hot, but they're going to be, you know, it's going to take a little while for them to set. So anyway, thanks for watching. God bless you.